Chair now recognizes Secretary Kelly for an opening statement.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Ranking Member Thompson and all the members of the committee. It's my honor to appear here today to discuss the Department's crucial mission of securing the border and many other issues. For 45 years, I was privileged to serve both as an enlisted Marine and as an officer. I'm humbled again to answer the call to duty and take over at the Department of Homeland Security. Our nation faces diverse challenges and dangerous adversaries who do not respect the rule of law or of borders. While long aware of its great work, I have recently had the opportunity to witness firsthand the pride, experience, and professionalism of the DHS workforce. I am proud of our men and women, as a nation should be as well. As Secretary, you have my commitment to vigorously protect our country, secure our borders, and enforce our laws, all while facilitating lawful trade and travel. In doing so, know that I take seriously our responsibility to balance security with the protections afforded by law, privacy rights, and our civil rights and liberties. Securing a nation's border is one of the primary responsibilities of any sovereign nation, including ours. Under my leadership and the direction of President Trump, we will finally do so. We will build appropriate physical barriers which will be monitored and supported by trained professionals within the Department of Homeland Security. We will work to prevent illegal immigration, drug and human trafficking, and I include here narco-terrorists, from entering our nation. We will enforce our immigration laws in an efficient and effective manner. We will work closely with our state and local law enforcement partners, some of whom are here today. All of this consistent with, of course, federal law. It is our duty to protect our citizens from terrorism and to prevent the admission of foreign nationals who intend to exploit our generous immigration laws. The President's executive orders on border security and immigration enforcement will enhance public safety for all of our citizens. The President's recent executive order to temporarily suspend entry for foreign nationals from 7 countries, we believe, is lawful and constitutional, and the review ordered by the President is necessary and appropriate. It will enable us to assess the adequacy and availability of information we need from all countries to adjudicate all visa applications or other benefits under our existing immigration laws, and to determine if the person seeking the benefit is, in fact, who they say they are and would not present us a threat. While some of the core tenets of this order are the subject of ongoing litigation, it is my belief that we will prevail and be able to take the steps necessary to protect our nation. Americans must feel safe to walk down the street, go to the mall, or to a nightclub, anywhere and any time. Fear must not become the status quo, and as it has in so many parts of the world. My responsibility and that of the tremendous men and women of the Department is to carry out those lawful measures in a manner that best protects the safety of all Americans. The safety of American lives is and will always be my foremost concern. Before I conclude, I'd like to thank the committee for its continued leadership, notably in seeking to reauthorize the Department. I appreciate your efforts, especially in securing the Memorandum of Understanding, which will help facilitate the reauthorization we currently need. The threats and challenges have changed since Congress created DHS some 15 years ago. We need to update the authorities to successfully complete our mission today. I look forward, sir, to answering your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I now recognize myself for questioning. We look forward to working with you on that authorization, which is long overdue. Let me say first, I agree with the policy of the executive order. It's consistent with a memo I drafted with to then candidate Trump, with Mayor Giuliani, Attorney General Mukasey, advocating a shift from a Muslim ban, which he was campaigning on, which we thought was unconstitutional, to rather an enhanced vetting process of immigrants and refugees based on risk, not religion, from high threat areas. It's consistent with the visa waiver security bill that was signed into law by President Obama. It's consistent with the SAFE Act that passed the House with bipartisan veto-proof majority. My concern, as you and I have talked, is how it was implemented in the execution of this order. First, lawful permanent residents with green cards were denied. Military advisors who risked their lives to help U.S. forces overseas, as you know, were denied, and students were trapped overseas with visas. Let me say I applaud you for quickly correcting what I consider to be errors by quickly granting the exception and waiver to green card holders, which went a long way to remedy, I think, this executive order. My other concern was a lack of coordination, both within the executive branch and also with congressional leaders like myself. I applaud the president for trying to get things done quickly, and that's what leadership is all about, and he is fulfilling campaign promises. But as we move forward, what do you consider to be the lessons learned here from this executive order?
Mr. Chairman, I think as we've talked, I've talked to many members, some members of this committee, and certainly senators as well. The executive order was developed certainly before I ever began to be developed before I ever became the Secretary of Homeland Security, before my confirmation. Just after the inauguration, my staff, a very small number, and myself had some initial cuts on that. Some changes were made. It was released, I think, as you recall, the third one I'm talking about now was released on late on a Friday. We knew it was going to be released that day. The desire was to get it out. The thinking was to get it out quick so that potentially people that might be coming here to harm us would not take advantage of some period of time. They could jump on an airplane and get here or get here in other ways. So that was the thinking. In retrospect, I should have, this is all on me, by the way, I should have delayed it just a bit so that I could talk to members of Congress, particularly the leadership of committees like this, to prepare them for what was coming. Although I think most people would agree that this has been a topic of President Trump, certainly during his campaign and during the transition process. As the great men and women, particularly of the border protection people, as they unfolded that or started to implement it, I should say, they got back to us with some suggestions about how we could alter it. We did that as I think the order was signed or released at 1800 on Friday, 6 p.m. Before midnight, we had made an adjustment. The next day, made a couple of other adjustments to kind of fine tune it. We did have to step back and kind of recock that in that first 24-hour period because of action by one of the federal courts that changed things a bit. So we had to kind of step back. But for the most part, again, I know it can be an inconvenience, but what was done at the counters, so to speak, and at the very many airports where people were coming in the United States, everyone was treated humanely. I've read the reports about people standing up for hours on end. Didn't happen. That people were insulted. I guess insults are in the eyes of the beholder, but I would tell you the kind of men and women that I serve with do not insult people. They're very, very matter of fact. They're very businesslike. But going forward, I would have certainly taken some time to inform the Congress, and certainly that's something I'll certainly do in the future.
Well, and we look forward moving forward in the future with you. I applaud your quick correction of it, and I hope the courts act quickly because, as you stated, every day we're putting American lives at danger. Let me shift to the border. When you were commander of Southcom, you and I met several times to talk about the threats coming from south of the border, whether it be transnational criminal organizations or their potential ties to terrorism. Being from a border state, Texas, I understand this very well. I appreciate you coming down to my state and visiting with the governor and DPS. Steve McCraw is going to testify, and the good men and women of CBP down there. Can you tell us what the executive order came out for the border surge? I want to work closely with you on this. Can you tell us what this wall is going to look like? And you may not be able to answer this one, but how much it's going to cost and how are we going to pay for it?
As far as the wall goes, Mr. Chairman, I specifically went down to the most affected part of the border, South Texas, down around McAllen. Specifically went down there to talk to local law enforcement, which I did. The governor was there, and to talk to my people on the border, ICE as well as CBP. We're not going to be able to build a wall everywhere all at once. So part of the reason I went down there, first and foremost, was to ask the people that know more about this than anyone else on the planet, we have walls. There's walls there, parts of walls in strategic places in McAllen on the border. But do we need more wall? And they said, well, Secretary, we need to extend some walls. We need to fill in some places with physical barriers. Their preference would not be something they couldn't see through. That was a finding for me. But they very definitely said, yes, sir, we need a physical barrier backed up by people like us, meaning CVP and local law enforcement, with technology where it's appropriate. And they had in their mind that many hundreds of miles of that sector, they had places where they wanted a physical barrier constructed, tomorrow, or actually yesterday, and then today, tomorrow, and you see the point. And they did point out there are parts of the border that are right now not an issue, as much of an issue as they are, say, right here in McAllen. I'll go to Tucson sector later in the week and then push over to San Diego sector. I suspect I'll hear the same thing because it's certainly what my leadership in the Department of Homeland Security are telling me. So that's where we are on the wall. We're not going to build it all in an afternoon. So we'll build it in the places that the people that work that border say we need it right now. And there are places on that border, I'm told, we need it right now.
Well, I can't agree with you more, and I'm glad you see that perspective. Every sector is different, multi-layered defense, fencing, but also technologies, aviation assets. I think 100% visibility is what you want, because if you can see the threats, you can stop them. So I look forward to working with you on that very important task. I've been trying to get this done, sir, for the last 6 terms in Congress, and I think now we finally have the political will to do it. And so thank you.